Good afternoon, everyone. Well, I guess I could say good afternoon, good evening, family. How are you guys doing? I'm praying that everyone's day has been an awesome day. Praying that everyone has had a renewed and rested day. I'm actually really excited about today's lesson or today's topic. I want to talk about going through it and not around it. On yesterday, I had the opportunity to share a bit of a testimony on my personal page. So if any of you are on there, then you probably have already heard the testimony. However, I know that it was such a on-time word. I know that it's a word that God specifically designated and appointed for this time because he's doing an awesome work, family, and he is pushing so many of us into our destiny. He's pushing so many of us into our purpose. And in order to step into your destiny and your purpose, you have to be able to do so apart from fear. And so I want to talk to you all today about what God has for you and how going through something instead of around it is necessary. So I pray that this word blesses you all. I pray that it is on time for you as it was on time for me. And I just pray that it go forth and that it water your hearts and that it falls on good soil. So we're going to talk about going through instead of around, family. So on yesterday, well, I'll start from the beginning. So 10 days ago, as of today, I started a journey with God just concerning my health and concerning getting some things together. And I am doing a 30-day walk-in worship. So if any of you are on my personal page, then you've been able to watch that journey with me day by day. So my 30-day walk-in worship, I was in a place of fear. I was also in a place of kind of not really spending as much time with God as I had been because so much has been going on. And the first thing that seems to take a hit sometimes when we are overwhelmed or we're going through a lot is the time that we spend with God. So I had a little bit of a health scare and I said, okay, God, I'm going to really get invested in my health and I am going to get it together. So 10 days ago, I started doing a walk-in worship. One of the strongholds in my life, and has been there my whole life, is fear. I've struggled so greatly with overcoming fear of all kinds of different things. And so I told God when I started this journey with him, it's actually become a fast. When I started this journey with him 10 days ago, I said, Lord, for 30 days, I want to, every single day, I want to go out, I want to work on my health, but I also want to spend that time in prayer with you. And the things that I'm looking to break in that 30 days are the spirit of fear that has hovered over my life my whole life, as well as just learning discipline and learning self-control and consistency. And so in doing that, yesterday I went to the park to walk, as I have been every day, and I'm walking and I decided I was going to push myself a little bit further yesterday. So I'm like, okay, God, I've been doing like a mile to a mile and a half every single day, so I want to this week work on pushing myself further. So the park that I'll walk at, there's a section of the park that's across the street, and then there's another part of the park that goes across the other side of the street, and it goes down underground under a tunnel. And so something just kept pressing on me, and I believe it was the Holy Spirit kept pressing on me, saying, go across to the other side of the park today. Don't just make the same circle. Go ahead and walk on the other side of the park today. So I'm like, okay. So I get to the other side and I approach a tunnel. Now, I'm in Texas, y'all, and snakes are everywhere, especially in the summertime. And so this tunnel that's going under, under this, it used to be a road, and once they built the park, it became just a tunnel to the other side of the park. So I get to that part. Now, the only way at this point where I'm at, the only way for me to get to the other side of the park, right? The only way for me to finish my walk or finish my race is to go through this tunnel. But this tunnel is pretty dark. The park is kind of in a wooded area, and I'm like, okay, Lord. So I stand there for a while and I look at the tunnel and I'm like, but do I want to go all the way back around where I just came from? Or would I rather do that to avoid running into a snake? Or do I want to just go ahead and walk under the tunnel? Because where I'm trying to get is just right here. It's just on the other side of this tunnel. And so fear was causing me to contemplate going all the way back around, y'all, basically defeating my purpose of coming around on the other side of the park. I was almost willing to forfeit the progress that I had made out of fear, because I didn't want to run into no snake. I didn't want to run into no raccoon. I didn't want to run into something. So I almost allowed fear to steal my progress and cause me to go all the way back around where I came from, instead of just going through this tunnel to get to the other side of where I was trying to get to. So I'm like, okay, Lord, don't let no snakes be in here. I'm going to do this. I'm not happy about it, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to walk through this tunnel. And at that moment, God began to minister to me, and he said, you know, this tunnel, this is what your entire life has looked like. Your entire life has been stunted by fear. And you have allowed fear so many times in your life to cost you your progress, or to cost you the success of going through the process. You've allowed fear to steal so many awesome things from you your entire life, because you did not want to go through the process. You didn't want to go through the pain. You didn't want to go through the sacrifice. And so you allowed fear to cause you to look for ways around the process, to go back from where you came from. And how often do we do that, family? How often do we allow fear to rob us of what God has for us? How often do we allow fear to, instead of going through something, cause us to go all the way around, or even to backpedal and go back where God brought us from? It's too often, family, that we allow fear to make us turn around and go back in the other direction, and because we're afraid of what we're going to have to go through to get where God has for us, we let fear take us back where we came from. That same place that you were praying to get deliverance from, that same place that you know is not healthy, but it's more comfortable and you know what to expect, and fear has told you that what you're about to go through is worse than where you've come from, so you might as well turn around and go back. Come on, family. How many times do we allow fear to cost us our progress, cost us our presence, cost us our fear, or I'm sorry, y'all, our faith? How often do we allow fear to steal what God has from us? So as I was walking yesterday and I approached this tunnel, and I'm like, Lord, don't let no snakes be in here. I stopped and I looked back. Now, mind y'all, the point at where I was over 1.5 miles. I was almost willing, y'all, to sacrifice and walk an entire 1.5 miles back to the starting point, rather than just walk 0.5 mile through a tunnel, because I was afraid of what I was about to walk through. And God said, enough is enough. You've done this your whole life. Every time you approach a tunnel, you look back, and because you're afraid, you go back where you came from. And so many times I've had a breakthrough right in front of you on the other side of a tunnel, but because you didn't go through it, you missed it. And in that moment, as I'm standing there and people are passing me going through this tunnel, people are jogging past, people are going by on bikes, people are walking by, I'm standing there, and fear is making me contemplate sacrificing the entire 1.5 miles that I had already walked, just because I was afraid to walk through a tunnel where something was awaiting and I didn't know what it was. And God said, enough is enough. You're not about to walk that 1.5 miles back to where you came from. You're going to go through this tunnel today. You're going to embrace this unknown thing. You're going to go through this knowing that I'm with you. You're going to go through this knowing that I've got something I'm trying to show you on the other side of this. And what I love about God is that instead of condemning us, he encourages us in those times when we're unsure what we're facing, whether it's worth it or not. He encourages us, and so he said, remember that I told you in the book of Joshua, be strong and courageous, because I'm with you always. So I know you're afraid of what might be in this dark tunnel, but in order to get where I've got for you to go today, you've got to go through this. James chapter 1 verse 2 says, count it all joy when you encounter trials, for the testing of your faith produces patience. James 1:4, and let patience have its perfect work, so that you may be mature and lacking nothing. So as I'm getting to the tunnel, I'm like, all right, Lord, you say you're going to be with me. Now be with me, because y'all, I'm horrified of snakes. I'm horrified of anything that ain't on two legs like me, except for puppies. If it's a puppy, I can deal with it, y'all, but I can't deal with creepy crawlies. I can't deal with bugs. I can't deal with snakes, lizards, none of it. So I'm like, okay, Lord, be with me. Y'all, as I began walking through this tunnel that I did not want to go through, I took one final look back and I was like, man, where I came from is entirely too far back for me to go back. And I'm going to embrace this. I'm going to count it joy. And I'm going to go through this because God has brought me too far. I've come 1.5 miles on this walk. And if I turn around now out of fear and walk a whole 1.5 miles back, I'm actually doing more harm than I am good. I'm actually cheating myself when I can go through this tunnel in 1.5 miles and be where I'm going, or 0.5 mile and be where I'm going. So I start going through this tunnel, and as I get into the tunnel, y'all, on the wall in graffiti, because remember I said that the park used to be a part of the city, a street. As I began to walk through this tunnel, on the side of the pavement in graffiti says cure. Hallelujah. It says cure. So someone at some point was doing street art in this tunnel, and it said cure, C-U-R-E, cure. And God said, you see, when you were standing there looking back, I knew the lesson I needed to teach you today. And I knew that if you came through this tunnel, that you would see this and that it would minister to you the entire point. And so as I'm going through this tunnel and I look and I see the word cure, God said, now this is what I wanted to tell you. Going through is the cure to fear. So often we allow fear to keep us stuck. We allow fear to send us back. God said, you think that the cure to your fear is turning around or looking for a way around it, but the cure to your fear is actually going through it. So it's actually going through it. It's not looking for a way around it so that you can avoid it. It's not going all the way back where you came from, because at least you know what to expect. The cure to your fear is simply going through. 2 Corinthians 4, verse 17 says, for this light and momentary affliction is preparing for us an eternal weight of glory beyond all comparison. James chapter 1 verse 12 says, blessed is the one who perseveres or patiently endures, meaning blessed is the one that goes through the process, for when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life which God has promised to those who love him. And I love that, because as I'm walking through this tunnel and I look down and I see the word cure, God begins to minister to me. And he says, you know, listen, sometimes when you think going backwards is what you need to do, sometimes when you're looking for ways around the trouble, sometimes when you're looking for ways around the difficult situations in your life, you are not understanding that there are things that I have in line for you, that I need to bless you with going through. There are things that you can only receive from God by going through. Romans chapter 5 verse 3 through 4 says, more than that, we rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope. Family, God is trying to produce in us endurance and character and hope today. And these are things that you can't pick up by going around the trials in life. These are things that you can't pick up by going back where you came from. There are things that God is trying to build in you for your next season. There are gifts. There are characteristics. There are spiritual gifts. There are things in you that God is trying to develop and bless you with, and he can't do it because every time a trial comes where you can pick that up along the way, you go around it or you go back, and then you have to do it all over again anyway. God is saying, no, you keep asking me for patience. And every time I bring you to the tunnel that I need you to go through to learn patience, you turn around and go back, or you go around it. No, I'm trying to bless you with a spirit of power. I'm trying to teach you how to stand in my word. And every time I bring you to a place where I'm taking you is the place you're going to learn it, you run from it. Every time I try to develop your spiritual gift of discernment, you run from from the process. Every time I try to build you up and make you stronger, you run from the process instead of going through. Family, we've got to learn how to go through, because there are things that you need to develop in your walk with God, in yourself, that you cannot develop if you keep going around the process, if you keep looking for ways around it, if you keep going back where you came from. Family, I can tell y'all right now, I have let fear send me backwards so many times in my life, because maybe I was afraid of going through the breakup, because I was scared to be by myself. And so I stayed somewhere where someone was not doing me any good, where it was toxic, because I was afraid to go through the pain and get stronger. I was too afraid of the pain, the hurt. So I stayed somewhere that God had told me to leave a long time ago. And the things that he has built in me since that time, I would never have received if I would not have embraced the process. 2 years ago, I went through a breakup, and I was so fed up and tired, and I felt so weak, and God said, I'm about to build in you the strength and the character that you need to be able to be whole all by yourself with just me, to stand on your own 2 feet, to be strong, to fight battles. But I can't build it in you if you stay here and you don't go through. And I said, okay, God, I'm gonna go ahead and walk away. And y'all, it was the best decision I ever made. The best decision that I ever made in my life was to stop looking for ways around the process and just go through, because you're cheating yourself every time you abandon God's process. Family, we got to learn how to go through the development that we're seeking, the blessings that we're seeking, the breakthroughs that we're seeking, the character, the strength, the faith that we're seeking, the spiritual gifts that we're seeking, the purpose that we're seeking. You will find it in the going through. It's in the process. It's going through the tunnel. It's not looking for ways around it. It's not looking for ways over it and under it. It's going through. So yesterday, as I was on my walk and I came to this tunnel, God said, today, you're not going to go back around the park. You're not going to look for a way around. You're going to go through this tunnel today, because I got a lesson that I need to teach you, so that you can get this thing and you can move forward to the next stage in your life, having conquered this, having learned this, having overcome this. I need you to go through. And family, God is saying to someone right now today, I need you to trust me and just go through it and stop looking for a way around it. I need you to trust me, because I've got something for you in the process. But if you keep looking for ways around the process, you will never receive what I have for you. Family, it's in the going through. It's in the going through. Come on, y'all. It's in the going through. This is Manifest Monday. We're manifesting God's goodness in our lives. We're manifesting trust and strength. In order to get to where you're going, you got to go through. Enough running, enough hiding. Come on, let's not keep on being Jonahs and getting swallowed up by the whale, because we're running from the thing that God has for us. Family, we've got to go to Nineveh today. We've got to go through, because what God has for you on the other side is so much better than what you can find going back, what you can find going around. We got to go through today, family. So I was so excited to share that word with you guys. I know it's an on-time word. I know that God has brought this word forward for such a time as this, to bless his children, to push us into destiny. God is trying to build us up and birth the nation. And if we don't learn how to go through and get developed and get strong and pick up what God has for us along the way, family, we will miss our entire purpose. I love you guys. Thanks for joining me. Have a great day.